Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Parts.
You got some today?
Yeah, I've been working on a few things. Since last week, I've had an easier time of getting not even getting the part to separate, but just it's separating, which I guess is what is supposed to happen. It's there's a clear difference between trying to stop the emotion from happening versus letting it just come in and get absorbed by itself. And I feel like I understand that distinction much better now.
Right. Yeah. I like that. Absorbed by.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing is that these parts fear that the distress will just build and build and build. And then what actually happens when they step back is that the distress gets absorbed by self and there's sort of a realization that I guess that everything will be okay in the grand scheme or something, which yeah, it's not even it's not even an intellectual position that everything will be okay. It's just
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I don't want to put too fine a point on it. I'm definitely still having plenty of issues with parts, but it's just been really great to get a taste of how it's supposed to work.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah. So, I guess.
Do you want to? I'm curious, just if you want to share, is there something that you felt like you were doing differently? Is there something you wish you had tried weeks ago, or?
I think, I don't know if I don't know if there was anything that I knew weeks ago that I intuitively understood weeks ago that would have led me to this point if I had just taken stock of it. I think it was really about getting the part to notice that it was a part and getting it to to have enough trust in self that it could step back a little bit and see that distress get absorbed.
Yeah.
And I think beforehand, it just didn't know that that was a thing.
Right. Yeah, just the understanding of the paradigm and the reality of the situation we're in with parts is a crucial first step for those parts, and then that kind of slow and steady repeated practice of wearing that path.
Yes. I think it's that the part didn't know that it wasn't self, I guess, because I technically knew that you have to get the part to step back and that you have to have self give them unconditional love. But I think it was that part trying over and over to do that for them and running into trouble that way. It was like a pushing, a striving, like, come on, just let self in. It's like, that's not how
yeah. And, there's nothing wrong with pushing and striving. Like fundamentally, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's just in parts work.
Yes.
And forming that connection that's going to get in the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. So I feel like one thing that popped up for me last night, and I think I told you that I usually wake up in the middle of the night at some point.
Right.
Yeah, and it just it doesn't even bother me, but it's just part of my sleep cycle. But sometimes when I'm awake, either like in the middle of the night or in the morning when I wake up, I'll feel this this shame residue all over me, it feels kind of random, but I think what it is that there's a part that keeps the shame out and a part that kind of vigilantly guards that. But then when I'm just waking up, it's not fully up and not fully defended yet. And so I just have this feeling of I did such a cringy thing the other day, or I did such a cringy thing 10 years ago, or it'll sometimes it'll just be a vague feeling that I'm a cringy person.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely some exile energy.
Definitely. Yeah. And then as you wake up, the other protectors wake up and they get to doing what they do best and putting that away.
Usually what happens is that I start coming up with things to do to make up for my cringe. And so then I start thinking, what am I going to do today? I'm going to wash the dishes. I'm going to do some work. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to get my life in order finally. And that kind of distracts from the shame.
Yeah. And is that the task manager part?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very useful. I mean, there's whole schools of thought that say that's how you beat depression. That's how you beat anxiety. Just stay busy. It's effective.
Yeah. Except the thing is that part, the task manager being activated, also triggers another hopeless part. That's oh yeah, I've seen this shame avoiding tactic before. I've seen you try to get everything done and you never do. And it backfires. Yeah.
Yeah. So the hopelessness recognizes that the task manager is trying to take care of it all, and that won't.
And then it doesn't really work like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Sounds like you have a really nice map.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So, would you like to work with one of those parts? Get to know them, change your relationship with them?
Yeah, I think I would like to give some more attention and freedom to the shame exile, although I realize that a lot of times when I approach exiles, there's a part that panics, but we can see what we can do, I guess.
That's right. All right. Maybe check out for those parts first. Just the ones that that often come up. We know the task manager comes up around that. The panicky part comes up around that.
And the part that's trying to make everything okay and get me to calm down without stepping aside and allowing access to self, that one definitely. Although, I think last week I thought that one was the same as the task manager, but I'm not super sure anymore. But anyway.
Is that the captain of the ship?
It might be. Yeah, I think that is the one.
Okay. We'll see if you can poll them, ask them what they think about you going to this exile today.
Sure. And were you wanting to do a meditation? I know you usually want to do one. So, or are we?
Would you like to?
I'm fine either way, but okay. I just know that it's a routine for you.
It is. I'm been relaxing that mostly just by doing it before calls. So
okay, cool.
It's up to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pulling these parts. There's always a bit of fear around going to an exile.
Right.
Like I'm gonna learn something that I didn't, that makes it impossible to go on without being terrified. And I have a lot of, another thing that I've been working on as far as accessing the exile energy without panicking is around like death and thinking about like, how everyone eventually dies and I'm eventually going to die. And can I actually comprehend the fact that one day I'll like die and stop breathing and maybe I'll be in horrible pain, maybe I'll lose loved ones. Like, am I going to be able to live if I truly comprehend that? Or will it just set me into a state of complete existential panic? Like that's been kind of yeah.
Okay. It kind of reminds me of a part you mentioned another time that you said wanting to live your life, find the meaning of life, be a hero. Kind of had this existential feeling like I gotta figure this thing out.
Yeah, that definitely is part of it. That's part of it, and the other part of it is just that I'll die at all, and that I'll go through like we'll go through something horrible because everyone does, Yeah,
I assume it's not super pleasant.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that's like kind of a different topic than the shame, but they're all interconnected. So,
yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, when you take the temperature, what's it like? What's it like? The temperature of the room, kind of summed up or averaged among them.
Yeah, they're hesitant, they're anxious, but they're a bit less worked up than other times that we've worked together because like they have a little more trust in self than they did before.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank them and let them know that any of them can intervene, that we respect them, that we, at least I can speak for myself, I'd love to get to know any of them. So It's okay if they want to come up.
They appreciate that.
Yeah.
So the one that's kind of bringing me all these fears and cautions, it's like the death thing is kind of like its biggest worry, but it's also connected to the shame one for the same reason that it's connected to death, which is that like it's watching out for anything that could send me into like a tailspin. So that's, I guess, a protector.
Okay.
And
that feels like the strongest of them that's most hesitant?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Let's check in with that part.
Okay.
Okay. How do you notice that in your body?
There's a tension or like a vibration in my stomach area, a little bit in my arms. Yeah. Kind of almost a feeling of having too much coffee.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And how are you feeling towards that part?
Concerned, worried that it will get upset, that it has reasons to be afraid, etc.
Okay. Sorry, I'm taking notes.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, so there's concern that it will get upset, and there's also concern that it has good reasons to be afraid.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the part's concern? Or is that this part's concern? This one that
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing. I think there are multiple. I think it's that one's concern, and it's also the concern of at least one other that's kind of above it in the stack, like closer.
Yeah.
Like maybe the manager that's always with me.
Yeah, it's kind of overseeing the whole thing.
Yeah, and I guess agenda part is kind of like, oh man, this one's gonna be the center of attention again. We'll never get to the exile. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Has this one been the center of attention before with us? Or with your work?
Yeah, it's. I think we worked with it. Well, we definitely worked with it. Because I guess it's like the captain. So we definitely spent like that one session working on it. I think just it's come up a lot, even if it's another part that's fearing it or something. It's just kind of always, according to this part, throwing a wrench in things.
Yeah. And you got to this place with the task manager of having a more relaxed relationship with it and more appreciation of it. Have you ever gotten to that place with this part?
This is where I find it hard to separate them. I think I've gotten to that place. Okay, I'm not sure if the task manager and the one that's watching over everything are different parts or the same part. And I'm not sure if the captain is a different part or the same part as the one that's watching over everything.
Okay, but you are sure that you're picking up this energy of fear of learning something terrifying, and then this additional concern that it will mess up the process of you working with parts. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I do feel that the fear of learning something terrifying and the annoyance at it taking up attention, that's two different parts.
Right. Okay. Well, see if you can turn to the annoyance of it taking up attention.
Mm-hmm.
How do you notice that one in your body?
Like in like my upper chest / back on I think on the like the left side, it's kind of just like feeling of weight, of being weighed down, of being like, again, like, but there's an urgency too, of wanting to push forward.
Okay. And how do you feel towards it as you notice it and its state that it's in?
Well, I definitely sympathize with it because I get it. It feels like progress is slow. I'm also worried that it's even adding to the time that it takes to get to the exile, and that might be its own worry, being critical of itself. I'm not sure. But
yeah, and I can see that definitely. That could spiral. You know, if a part is worried about a part taking time, and then there's another part worried about that part taking time, another part worried about that time. So I guess what the message I would try to send to the whole system is again that each of them are valuable. Getting to know each of them is valuable, just like getting to know the task manager rippled in some ways through the system.
Yeah, that's true.
And we will probably spend a lot more time if we just ignore them and try to go to exiles and then experience the backlash. Like that would be much less efficient.
It's true.
So it's you kind of can't lose in that way that if they're up, then that's great because we need to get to know them. And if they're not, that's great. You can get to know other parts.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game is the phrase that comes to mind. Yeah, makes sense.
So see if you can just send them that kind of welcoming message.
Yeah, that definitely slowed him down a little bit. But it's funny. I think I just caught the manager, the one that's always watching. I guess I'll just call it the manager. I caught the manager being like, yes, let's offer the message. We're offering the message. We're offering the welcoming message. And then it's like disconnecting from actually offering the message.
Yeah. And so what that sounds like to me is kind of like you were saying about the task manager. Parts are trying to do IFS for you.
Yeah.
Right. They're hearing what might sound like, here's the right steps, here's the assignment, and they know how to handle assignments, right? And they jump on it.
Yeah, it thinks it has to do a good job because like actually letting me do it is not gonna be a good job, and that makes so much sense in the entire rest of my life where I have this like weird, uncomfortable, like meticulous perfectionism with some of my work that gets me in trouble because it's trying to like check my work all the time, and it's exhausting itself, and it's like also kind of stifling my natural ability to get things done and my creativity. Like, I'm not saying that to be critical of it. I feel a lot of compassion toward it, but yeah.
Sounds like a fair analysis.
Yeah.
You just let it know that you see all that, that you appreciate its power and its intention.
Yeah, I do. It's trying very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could benefit from not trying as hard, and it would probably be happier that way.
Yeah. Does it respond at all when you
Well,
that?
It kind of has a reaction of like, yeah, if I could try less hard, that would be great. I just don't know how to try less hard.
Okay. What's it afraid would happen if it tried less hard?
It's afraid that I wouldn't get things right. Like it, and it really does want to trust me and trust self. Like it believes in the concept of self, but it just doesn't know how.
Yeah. It's interesting. It believes in the concept of self.
Yeah.
We're trying to build relationships here. Right? I'm thinking of like a marriage or something. It's like, oh, well, I believe in the concept of a wife. It's kind of like,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's like, I mean, I'm sure it's the one that got me into IFS and that keeps me going with it. And yeah, it just struggles to know.
Okay, see if you can just invite it to notice you.
Yeah. Well, and I think it already does notice me a little bit because it does feel somewhat calm and somewhat understood.
Great.
Like it doesn't feel attacked even by the things I've said about it that seem critical. So
yeah, and just let it know that that's how you can work with it, and that's how you can work with any part. It's not through their belief in you as a concept, but it's in their direct relationship, observing, and your real understanding of them.
Yeah.
That isn't something that we're gonna really be able to put in perfect words and any kind of assignment that will get a perfect grade.
It does have trouble believing that, even though it wants to.
Okay. Again, ask it if it notices you.
It does.
Okay. There's no believing.
Well, the thing is, just because it notices me doesn't mean that it thinks I can do all these amazing things.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just, if it's okay with you, just stay in that place with it. Of it noticing you, of you being okay with it the way it is.
Okay.
Of you understanding it. I'm thinking back to that word absorb.
Yeah.
If you're just letting it be itself in your presence.
Yeah, I'm feeling that it's worried and that it doesn't have to stop being worried. I can just listen to its worry.
Right. Its worries matter.
Yeah. So it's used to thinking that if it's worried, then that means it's doing something wrong and has to fix that.
Yeah. That sounds really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of an impossible task to prevent worries in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be worried and you can be with it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're noticing its worry and everything else about it, does it feel like it's bringing you closer, or does it feel like it's pushing you away from it?
I would say a bit closer, just by small increments.
Right. Yep, that's how it works.
Yep.
You're not offended by its worry when you're in self.
Yeah. 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 It's the one that's offended by its worry. Sometimes it thinks that it is self. So that's where the mix-up happens. So it's good to show it that that's not the case.
Yeah. You could ask it more about its concern about doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just what it's been like for it.
Okay.
Having that concern, how long it's had that concern, how intense that's been for it.
Yeah. It's always felt, and yeah, this has been since a pretty young age. It's always felt that when you don't watch closely, you're bound to make mistakes, and you're bound to make mistakes anyway. So if you don't watch closely, you won't catch those mistakes and be able to fix them. And so you got to keep a close eye on everything.
Yeah.
Like it sees how many mistakes, like it doesn't think I'm the only one who makes mistakes. It sees how many careless mistakes other people make too, and how they pay for them. And it does not want that for me.
Yeah. Can you show it appreciation for its concern and its intention?
Yeah. Excuse me. It it doesn't want to be shown appreciation for its concern because it's upset that its concern might be valid. It's like, well, if my thing about making mistakes is true, then doesn't that mean that I have to be vigilant forever? And I don't have the energy for that. Like, you're supposed to be teaching, like it's saying to myself, like you're supposed to be teaching me how to stop doing that. So why are you validating me?
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you validate it, then that could mean that it's true, and therefore it's stuck doing that forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And you're laughing because
it does seem, it just intuitively feels like kind of a silly way to think about it, but at the same time, I'm not going to say it doesn't have a point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if, again, if it believes it's you, if it believes it's running the show, I can see why that would make more sense. Like if it thinks it's doing all this by itself,
right,
and there isn't any balancing forces or any leadership
yes,
to whom it can go with its concerns and have them received, absorbed, mediated, then I can see why, yeah, if that was the whole story of who you are, then that I can see why it would feel like it's doomed.
Yeah, it is still having trouble not like understanding that it's not me. It like, okay, at this point it understands a little bit that it's not me, but it sees self as still only this like faint glimmer of maybe things are okay in the very background. It doesn't really see self as like something that can actually lead on a moment-to-moment basis.
Great. We want to respect that.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to say that I believe its concern is valid. And that we really need this part doing what it does. What it does is not, it's not, what's the word? It's
not unnecessary.
It's not unnecessary, and it's not like some handicap or something.
Right.
You know, what's wrong with you because you have this part that does this. Like it's an actually valuable part. Not just tell it it's a valuable part so that it shuts up. It's it's actually helped, and it can continue to help.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doesn't need to change who it is.
Right.
We need to look out for mistakes.
We do.
It is painful when we don't notice mistakes and then they keep accruing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a little bit of warrior in us, I guess.
Right. Yeah, if you were never worried about anything or anxious about anything, I mean, I don't know of any species like that. That's not survivable, I think.
Right, very true. But it's just really exhausted from worrying.
Yeah, let it know you see that.
Yeah.
And that you'd like to help it.
Yeah, it sees that.
Mm-hmm. You could ask it what it would rather be doing if it didn't have to worry like that.
It would rather be checking for mistakes in like fun things. Like it would rather be the one that looks at my art when I'm making art and is like, you should use this color here instead of that one. And it wants to be like pleasantly discerning, and it wants to maybe make some confident judgments about what's safe and what's morally correct without having this like
this tension,
this like mind hamster wheel of the mind, like constantly going back and forth between options and not knowing what to pick.
Right. Earlier, we were talking about it has a sense of have to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Can't miss out on the mistakes.
Yeah.
You could ask a little more about what would be so bad about that. I mean, we're still fully validating that that's important to do, but trying to understand the emotion
Mm-hmm.
that comes up when or if the mistake is missed.
Yeah, it's kind of like I had something and that left my mind. Yeah, so if I make like a small mistake, then it's still an indication that I could make a big mistake, because if I can be not watching well enough that something small slips by me, then maybe one day I could accidentally step into traffic and get hit by a car, or I could like do the exact same mistake at a worse time, and suddenly something really bad would happen. And and like or also just they can accumulate, but in a less obviously harmful way, but in a way that's very long-term stressful. Like the thing that keeps getting to me lately is that, like, with my work projects, like my design projects, there will be a million things that there will be some things that I forget to do and that I need edits on, but then there will be like a million more things that like the client or whoever will forget that they didn't even need to forget, and they could have told me at the whole beginning of the process. And it drags out these projects so long, and then can't do the other things that they've put on my plate, and then people are mad at me because of things they did. And it's just like, mistakes in general are such a hassle on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So there's that hassle, there's the frustration. Then there's also what you were saying before about the basic safety. Yeah.
And it's also like a butterfly effect thing. Like, you could do something that you don't even notice, and then you could be a completely different person 10 years down the line because of it, which is just existentially terrifying.
Yeah.
Like for example, what if I'm not, like, if I'm looking for a romantic partner, what if I'm not on that dating app for one particular day and the best person ever was on there that day?
Right. Yeah. So could we say that there's maybe a part, or this part has this belief about just the effects of the butterfly, where you are, what you're paying attention to, all the things that you're not paying attention to, and the opportunities you could lose out on.
Yeah, life is real. Like, it's set in stone. Every moment that goes by is then set in stone, and you can't go back and change it. And it feels that life is all we have. So
yeah,
fucking it up would be catastrophic.
Yeah. And are you able to hear those messages from that same place of self-energy?
Yeah, I am a little bit. And what strikes me about engaging self with this part is that for the first time, there's maybe a slight sense that, like, maybe it's okay to lose everything. And that's really weird, but it's like, and not in like a depressing way, but just either there's something after death, which I don't necessarily think there is, but like either that, or maybe just like, maybe dying isn't the worst thing. Maybe a life going the absolute worst it can, isn't the worst thing, which is a really weird paradoxical thing to think. But I think that's just how self works.
I get it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and
I
that's
agree.
that's the perspective that this part has been missing, because it hasn't had access to self.
Yeah. Right. So it has these beliefs.
Yeah.
And self has these possibilities, this just kind of a wise and open creativity.
Yeah. It's kind of like my parts are going like, if this happens, I'll die. If this happens, it'll be terrible. And self is just going, well, what if it is terrible? What if you do die? And then the parts are like, I don't know. Never thought about that.
Yeah. I'm curious about that message of things being set in stone.
Yeah.
It's like, on the one hand, of course, everything we do, we can't undo the past.
Yeah. Like there are some things that you really can't go back and change. Like when my ex died, I would give a whole lot to be able to have him back, but there's just absolutely no way that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the worst case scenario that parts give me is like, what if you have a kid and that happens to your kid? How are you gonna make it done? And it almost makes me not even want to be a parent, even though I definitely want to be.
Yeah. All that risk and the potential grief.
Yeah.
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 And when go ahead.
Oh, well, I live near a university, and there was a student recently who was hit by a car and killed. And it's like, her parents had no control over that. It just happened to them one day, and they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. And my parts are just like, how the hell would you cope with something like that?
Right. And do you have a response from yourself about the process of grief and coping?
Well, I mean, it all does go back to just like, what if bad stuff does happen? And it's really hard to put into words. It's more of a feeling than a thought.
Yeah.
But I'm still working on it. Like there's definitely part of me that's like, no, I don't know how I would cope with that. I wouldn't cope with it. It would be the worst.
Yeah, and I'm not arguing that. I mean, it could be the worst, right?
Yeah.
And like, would I do I know how to cope with that? I haven't had that experience.
Right.
I don't think anybody has that. Everyone who's had a child has that risk, and none of them have. None of them are thinking, well, I know how to handle that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Right.
Yeah, the only thing I've got is that self basically just saying, well, what if the worst happens? Then it'll be the worst. And
self will still be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what's the worst that can happen if the worst happens? It's kind of just like, yeah, it's like trying to divide by zero, but there is a weird feeling of peace or something like way deep down in there, buried somewhere.
Yeah. It sounds like self energy to me.
Yeah.
Because there is tragedy everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody makes it out of life alive. So at least I won't be alone.
That's right. Yeah. And, you can laugh about it.
Yeah.
When you're in that space.
Yeah.
You can see it, you can accept it, you can lean into it. You can I think it's so easy to turn away from all of it and run from it all.
Yeah.
And spend all of our time doing that. So
It's true.
So yeah, I mean, I think you're asking the right questions of just and being with that part and being with all these parts and saying, okay, you're recognizing, you're validating their fears.
Yeah.
And you're being with them while they're having that fear. And you're demonstrating to them, again, that how you can absorb that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even without having the answers, even without having, I already know how to do this, right? Right.
Yeah. My parts did think that there had to be an answer for there to be peace around something. And I think that is what self offers, is that there doesn't have to be.
Right. Yeah, you can't promise them an answer, but you can promise them, or you can generate with them presence.
Yeah.
And the piece of being with them. You said earlier about, at least I'm not alone, right? And going through death or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the same with our parts. That's what you can do for them, is say, okay, we're gonna go through some shit. None of you have to do it alone.
Yep. And that's actually so funny. My manager had read about that being how it works, and so had been trying to offer that to the other parts for a long time. And we were all getting very frustrated because it wasn't happening. And it's because the manager was trying to learn to be a therapist, which was very valiant of it, don't get me wrong.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible what they're capable of. And again, the intuition and the intention that they have for what's right and what feels right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how are you being with this part now? How is it reacting, hearing all of this? How's it all feeling?
It's still a bit nervous. But it's glad to have self around.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's kind of having a feeling of like, it hopes that this all isn't too good to be true. Which is something that it's a common theme with like my undeserver part, if you remember that one.
I do.
Yeah, where it's like, let's have a pessimistic outlook so that we're not disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they certainly feel calmer than they have in the past few weeks. So that's encouraging. But yeah, there's definitely like a really, you think you can just learn to be okay with death? You think you can accept tragedy? What if you can't?
So again, you are right now practicing accepting parts in their big emotions.
Yeah, they're right. I always forget they're allowed to be afraid of that.
Right. And that's, if you can accept them, I mean, all of your experiences fundamentally are internal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, does that make any sense? Like, your consciousness and your experience of the world is all happening in you.
That's true.
So whatever tragedy you're going to experience is going to be, in this perspective, it's going to be in you. It's going to be how your parts respond.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah. And I think just now, the manager, just old habits die hard. It was trying to kind of step in and be like, these parts are so worried. How can we stop them from being worried? And then I had to remember that they can be worried. And then, and then I had a resistance to, I noticed a resistance to allowing them to be worried. And that's when I realized, oh, right, the manager is back.
Right. Yeah. So it's a shift from how to handle the thing, whether the thing is external or it's, this manager is trying to handle things, to kind of like how to handle you. You know, you when you're looking at the parts and you're saying that's what to look out for, is the relationship versus the
control.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you just keep coming back to that, it'll just keep getting easier and easier.
Yes. It's like the manager just forgets that it doesn't do that. And reminds over and over.
And it has every good reason to forget. And it may continue forgetting until, if there are exiles, right? If there's, these managers are usually so busy because of exiles. Right. And so there is that connected piece of going to the other layers.
That's true. I remember the book said that protectors don't fundamentally change until you unburden their exiles.
Right. And yet, just being with them and noticing them and accepting them.
Yeah.
It's a huge first step. It's a necessary first step.
Yeah, because it allows.
It does bring some peace to the system.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's how to build trust with them. And hey, you could also look at it as practicing. So, if going to the exile is higher stakes, well, this is great. You can practice and develop your ability to do this with protectors.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, the agenda part has relaxed a lot.
Yeah. You could just check in with these parts on what they need from you going forward.
Yeah.
How they would like to continue in this relationship with you.
Well, some of them are definitely like, I guess this is probably agenda part, being like, just keep an eye on that manager. And yeah, so I really just want to notice. I want to notice every time I'm worrying and I'm having a feeling like I can't worry. I
Right.
have to figure out how to stop.
Yes. And if I can make a suggestion, it's keep coming back to the parts thing. So I'm worried I can't worry. A part of me is worried. A part of me is welcome to worry. And I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes just that shift in language can help you get there.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. Sounds like you're on the right path to me. It sounds like you're... I know that agenda part feels like it might be slow going, but to me, it feels like it's all been essential and it's all been... I mean, from what I'm seeing, at least, it looks like you're continuing to build those relationships and build that trust.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, agenda part isn't really upset that we spent the time on the manager. It sees the necessity of that now.
Yeah. Me too. I don't have it, I'm not thinking, damn, we didn't get to exile. It's like, this is great.
Yeah, because now agenda part has noticed that the manager is important, and it's like, well, keep an eye on that manager.
Right.
There's been a change there.
Keep them close.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other parts have any concerns or anything else you'd like to chat about?
Yeah, I don't think so. Thank you for all your help as always.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a new strategy with my very full calendar, and I will be reaching out to you shortly.
Oh, great. Because I was checking and I wasn't seeing any appointments. So that's great. Thank you.
No, we got appointments going on there, and I will get you on there.
Excellent. Thank you.
If you'll come back.
What? Sorry, say that again?
I said, if you'll come back. If you want to keep doing this.
Of course I do.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you so much. All
okay.
Right.
Have a great night. Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube, and they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.